Um, I've been doing ARRL Sweepstakes since November of 1955, and except when time was limited because I had to be somewhere else for part of the weekend, I've done it seriously, and I love it, and a lot of people love it. It's a little different than other contests, and maybe a little more difficult, but it also will sharpen your contesting skills. These contests are held now every November. The first weekend in November, first full weekend in November is CW, and the third full weekend in November is single sideband. And they are held for 30 hours on the weekend, beginning at 2100 Zulu. So that's 5 p.m. Saturday, and going until 0259 Zulu, 10:59 p.m. on Sunday. The maximum that a single operator can operate is 24 hours. And I do want to mention any of you who are trying to put in a full-time effort or are close to the full-time effort would probably need to pay attention. Most of you will not worry about it because you won't put that much time in. But if you're going to put in close to the full time, then you need to know that in order to, you obviously start counting time when you make your first contact, and you subtract only periods of time when you do not make a contact for 30 minutes or more. And that is, be careful that you don't take only 29 minutes off. Let's say you stop for supper at 23:30. Your next contact can only be at 0001. If you make your next contact at 0000, then you have only taken off 29 minutes. That is 23:31 through 23:59 is only 29 minutes. So be careful that you take off a full 30 minutes if you're worried about, if you're planning to put in something like a full-time effort. It's held on the general contest bands, 160 through 10 meters. Note that you can work each station only once in the whole contest. So that's an unusual provision. And that's one of the things that makes it a little difficult, particularly on CW, to keep up a rate for a whole 24 hours, is that you, in most contests, you work people per band. So you can work them as many as 6 times. In sweepstakes, one of the unique things about it is that you can work only once, no matter what band it is. There's almost no activity on 160. Unless conditions improve a lot, there will not be much activity on 10, but we can hope. And so 80 through 15 or 80 through 10 will be very active that weekend, on first one on CW and the second one on sideband. Your multipliers are ARRL sections or Canadian RAC sections, plus the Northern Territories, both Yukon and the Northwest Territories and Nunavut. Actually, all 3 of those, VE8, VY1, and VY0, count as Northern Territories, and they are not a section of RAC. They don't have enough people in them to call themselves a section, but they are a multiplier. Hawaii and Alaska are multipliers. The Virgin Islands are a multiplier, and Puerto Rico is a multiplier. And there are a few US or Canadian that are sort of rare that you would want to be sure to work if you hear one. Northern New York can be very difficult to work. West Texas can be difficult to work. These were sections that were created out of other sections because of interest other than contest, because of public service and that sort of thing. and they had people willing to be section managers and that sort of thing, but they didn't necessarily have many contesters in them. So those, it would be good if you want to get your score up by multiplying, or if you're hoping for a sweeps cup, you can get a coffee, you can buy a coffee cup if your log claims contacts with all 84 sections. The total is 84 now. And also, if you make 100 contacts, you can buy a lapel pin. So one thing you want to do to start with is set a goal. Do you want to be full-time? Do you want to just get on and make all the contacts you can make, contribute the most you can to the club score? Do you want to make 100 contacts and get a pin? Do you want to work all sections and be entitled to a mug? So once you set your goal, then when the contest starts, you will find that the exchange is very much like the text, like the heading of an ARRL message. In fact, this is the origin of it, and the origin of some of the words comes from traffic handling. So you give a QSO number, start with 1, and it should be sequential. The next thing you give is what is called a precedence. So in traffic handling, it would be routine, but so R or emergency or you know, they have different things. Routine, almost everything we have outside of emergency situations is routine. But here you've got the letters A, B, Q. That indicates single op. Low power is A, B is high power, Q, would be QRP. Then you could have an M, which would be multi-op, and you could have an S, which would be a school station, or you can have a U, which would be the U and the multi-op, and I guess the school station multi-op can use spotting assistance. A, B, and Q, you cannot use spotting assistance. So you can't, and in all classes, you can't solicit contacts before the contest, and you can't check on contacts afterwards. You can't use a database. I get several emails almost every time from people who want to, did you get my information? Please tell me that I'm in your log or something like that. I'll be glad to tell those people after the time for submitting the logs is run. But while the time submitting the logs is run, you're not supposed to be getting your information over after the contest is over to fill your log in. Now, so that's the number and the precedence. And next is your call sign. And please do put your call sign in there. It confuses people if you don't. So we have number 1, Bravo, K4BAI, and then what is called the check. It's called a check because it comes from the number of words in the message. So your check in a message would be 15 or 20 or 21, or just depending on the number of words in the message. In this case, it's a 2-digit number that should reflect the year you were first licensed. Some people use a year other than when they're first licensed for one reason or another. The rules say use the year you were first licensed. But the important thing is that you use a 2-digit number that could be a year, and that you use it consistently through the contest. So if you have a multi-op, you will pick a check that will not change when the operator changes. And then the last unit of what you exchange is your section. So a typical starting contact for me would be 1 Bravo K4BAI 54 Georgia. so you have your goal, and we hope one of the goals will be that people will want to make contacts to contribute to our aggregate club score. We have twice in the past won for medium clubs. Medium clubs is one where in both sweepstakes together, the club members submit and claim membership and are in the circle, so they count from 10 to 50 logs. So the ones over 50 are generally PVRC, Frankfurt, Yankee Clipper, Northern California Contest Club, Southern California Contest Club, maybe Contest Club Ontario. But for most of the rest of us, if we're up to 9 is for small local clubs, and for general contest clubs that are not huge, like the ones I mentioned, fall in the medium class. Our club has won it twice in the past, and that was before we had the split where some of the Georgia people were contributing to another club. Almost all of those remained members of our club and have now been posting their club, their scores for our club when they post them on 3830. So if that's what you want to do, and you know you can't put in 24 hours anyway, then unless you want to contribute to participate in QRP or up to 150 watts, by the way, the definition of low power is up to 150 watts. The best thing to do is to just get on, run all the legal power you can, make all the contacts, work all the sections you can, see what your score comes out to be, and submit it for Southeast Contest Club. Note that it must be exactly that. You don't put SECC. It must be spelled out, Southeast Contest Club. Now, there are 3 places really that you can do that. Two of them are very important. One is in the heading of your Cabrillo log. Your logging program should give you a Cabrillo log, which is a plain text log. And one of the things at the top will say club : and then put Southeast Contest Club. The second place is the ARRL's website, where you upload your log, will have a pull down menu, and Southeast Contest Club will be in there. So it will ask you, what is your club? You pull down the menu and you put Southeast Contest Club. And the same thing is true on 3830. It's not necessary for you to submit your score to 3830, but it's nice. It's nice to see SECC up there with a lot of scores being submitted. It means that for my weekly report, it's easy for me to pick them up from there. And in fact, in sweepstakes, that's about the only, either you send it directly to me or you put it there, or I won't know about it. And none of us will know about it till the results come out probably. Unless some people, of course, well, those who post their scores to the reflector are posting a copy of what they've already submitted to the 3830 reflector. Those circles, incidentally, you must both live in and operate in the circle. So if you're a club member and you live elsewhere, but you move into you operate a station within the circle, it still doesn't count. You have to live in and operate in the circle. We have won the prize that comes for the top big, middle, and small club is a gavel, and we have won 2 gavels in the past. I have won one and have it here somewhere, and you're welcome to it if I could find it. Paul Newberry, I'm sorry, our club won once and it was given to me. Our club won another time and we gave it to Paul Newberry because he had contributed so many points. So this time, I think if we should win it, we should give it to whoever in the club submits the most points, who has not, in other words, Paul obviously is not in contention, and I would not be in contention. So whoever this time who does not have a gavel can have that one, and maybe we can get a year or two in a row. One plan would be, if let's say you're going to do, I realize almost very few of you will do full time, but if you do, you have to plan around other commitments, other obligations, other things that you may have to do. If you don't have a block of time that you'll be away from the house, let's say you're going to be at the house for the whole 30 hours, then one way to do it, and the way I usually do it, is to start at 5 o'clock and go until Wisi has supper ready. And then I take at least 30 minutes off. It may take a little more than 30 minutes. And then I will go until sometime in the wee hours when the rate gets really slow. The rate gets really slow around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And that's a really good time to take some more time off to sleep. And when you get up, if you get up 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, things will begin to be hopping, particularly on 80 and 40. And then as the sun comes up, things will move to 20 and 15 and 10 later on in the day if 10 opens. You could take more time off for lunch with the family, take more time off for supper with the family on Sunday night, and by 11 o'clock, you can just about put in a full-time effort. There are all sorts of other ways of doing it, just depending on what your obligations are. But that can be a winning strategy. Particularly on CW, it's not really much that's so on for sideband, because there's so many potential people to work on sideband, but there's a limited number of people who are going to be working CW, and it can get sort of boring toward the end of the 24-hour, into the 30-hour period, where people who haven't used up their 24 hours are still calling CQ, and it's just the bands are full of people you've already worked calling CQ, and nobody's answering yours. The answer to that, if you want to avoid that type of boredom, is to be single op 2 radio, or to be practiced with the single op 2 SO2V, I think is what they call it, where you have a radio with 2 different VFOs in it, and while you're when you stop sending your CQ, and you can listen on the second radio and maybe find somebody CQing that you haven't worked. So if you don't get an answer, maybe you can find somebody working on that VFO and then quickly come back to your CQ frequency. It would be best, of course, if you have either keying on CW from your computer or from a keyer. A memory keyer you could do very well with, but it really would be helpful to have either the computer or a memory keyer to send at least the CQ, and you can actually have them send everything, send the whole exchange if you've got a computer, and with a memory keyer you can send everything but the number. On phone, it's important that you have a good, workable, understandable voice keyer if you're going to save your voice. It can be very taxing on the voice to go 24 hours, and you'll hear people getting hoarse, and you'll hear me. I will be more hoarse the further along I go. I've not had much luck with voice keyers, but I highly recommend them. But check them out ahead of time. Record the message. If it's just the CQ message, that will save you a lot. You could also have one that says Bravo K4BAI 54 Georgia. You could have one that says thanks K4BAI. You could basically have 3 of them: a CQ, a message, except for the message number, and a thanks message. But it'll save you a lot if you have at least a recorded CQ. If your goal is to work all sections in a full-time or to work all sections in a part-time effort, when you get toward the end of the goal, you want to be conscious of which sections you have not worked. And when you have propagation to those sections, then that's the band you need to be on, not on a band where you don't have propagation to, say, Alaska or wherever. You need to be on that band and probably CQing on that band. Now, here's something. You need one section or two sections or three sections, and you hear somebody in that section, and all he's doing is searching pounds. He's not staying on a frequency and giving you a chance to work him. So what do? My suggestion on CW is to go up. Some people tune from the top down, but the majority of us tune from the bottom up. Go up a few kilohertz, try to find a clear frequency and CQ, and let that person, as he comes up the band, hear you CQing. And just every once in a while, that'll work. It won't work every time. On phone, it's generally the other way. On phone, people generally tune, I think, down from the top on the low band, 75, 40, and 160, and up from the bottom on the high bands. This might be a good time to mention, especially to you phone operators, be conscious of the fact that even though there's somebody else calling there, you should not call, we should not transmit below 3603, 7128, or above 14347 or 21447. Because actually about 2.5, if you've got good frequency readout, if you get any closer than that, then your sideband on the side that you're operating on, where most of your noise is on sideband, that will get out of the band, and it might give you a old report or a pink ticket, which, by the way, used to disqualify you from the contest. I don't think it does anymore. But you don't want to avoid. You don't want to be operating illegally. My suggestion: make a point, if you haven't thought about it. Do not call CQ. Do not operate on or very close to 14300. That is the international maritime frequency. Those people guard that frequency like a hawk, and you're not going to make much progress if you call there. So best to just, I guess, if you hear somebody calling CQ, you can try to make a quick contact, but chances are you're not going to get that contact done before somebody with a rock crusher signal comes on and asks you to move. So I just avoid 14300. And when the 80 meters is open to DX, I try to avoid 3790 to 3800, which is considered a DX window. You'll find people CQing and making contacts in there probably when it would be courteous not to do that. And of course, you want to avoid transmitting on one of the W1AW broadcast frequencies at the time that they are broadcasting. I recommend the use of SuperCheck partial in your logging program. If you get most of a call or you get all of a call and you don't know whether it's right or not, if you have SuperCheck partial window open, it will tell you any call that is, it will confirm that that is a call in contest logs, or it will give you any others that are just off by one digit. So it will help you if you're having trouble getting a call sign and you get enough of it. Look in the SuperCheck partial window and ask. Don't just accept that that's the right call, but ask, is this WA1 DCQ or whatever it is that you're looking up? Now, there are also some pre-fill programs available. I recommend that you do not use them. If you do use them, you need to be very careful. And if you do use them, you want to get the latest version of them. But there are pre-fills that will tell you, I'm not sure if they have anything other than check and section. They might possibly even have precedents from past contests. But you put a call in and the rest of this comes up. There's no way the number can come up, but the rest of it comes up. The reason I say that I would recommend you don't do it is a lot of time that information is wrong. It's changed. And one problem is you've got so many units in this exchange that if you're struggling to get pieces of an exchange, you may forget that something that's in this partial that you picked up from the computer, you may forget that you didn't hear whether it was alpha or bravo. And I think it's better that you not do that. But if you do, if that's what you'd like to do, then you just need to make sure the information you're hearing is the same that your computer already has. And then all you have to do is put in the number. When you have 7 days from the end of the contest, it ends at 10:59 or after 10:59 p.m. Sunday night. So you've got until that same time the next Sunday night. You've got 7 days. And after that, unless you have asked for and received an extension before that time runs out, after that, it will be too late. And there is, you upload your log, your Cabrillo log, go to the easy way I find it is just to go to the WA7 B&M contest calendar, and he has broken it out for you for every contest. Where is the website? So I just click on the website there and then come up and answer all the questions and then attach my log. Name your log, your call sign .log, nothing else. Don't have ARRLSS or anything. Regardless of what you call it when you're logging, when you get ready to create your log to send to the sponsor, it should be just W8FN.log or whatever whatever your call is. And I would appreciate it. I think I've already said this, to please post your scores to 3830. Now there's some rules that are a little bit obscure and I just want to bring them to your attention. You cannot use more than one call sign to make QSOs during the contest. So now there's an exception for family stations, but if you're not a family station, if you make a contact with your call, you can't also make contacts with a club call or a friend's call or anything else during the contest. You elect what call you're going to use and you use that for all contests. That's just to prevent manufactured, people doing things for their friends, working their friends with several different calls. That's against the rules. Also, there's a rule that says you cannot have alternating CQs in the same band. So if you're running, you can't pick a frequency low in the band and a frequency high in the band and alternate CQs between them. That is simply to conserve the frequencies so that somebody else can use them. Don't tie up two frequencies. Now, people with single op 2 radios may be doing that on 2 different bands, but that's not prohibited, but you can't do it on the same band. There is also a rule that says do not rubber clock. And basically that means if you logged at the correct time, don't change it. Now, obviously you can make a contact and forget to hit enter and go to dinner and come back and discover you didn't do that. Then you go ahead and enter that. If you know it's 1 minute after the last one or the same minute as the last one, you can make your change for that. But don't change it from something that was the correct time to something that's slightly incorrect in order to sort of gerrymander a 30-minute time off. That's against the rules, and they can generally figure that out if people do it consistently. I guess with regard to the band edge on CW, probably 500 hertz. The big contest station sometimes will get within 250 hertz of the band edge. I would say don't get any closer than 500. And if you're going to be that close, you might want to hit your frequency lock on your radio to be sure that you don't knock yourself out of the band by just touching the control there. Your money band in sweepstakes in the daylight is going to be 20 meters, secondarily 15, secondarily 40. In darkness, your money band is going to be 40, but it can be 80. Sometimes 40 will be so long that it doesn't take you long to work everybody that you're going to be able to work. And then you need to try 80. If 80's quiet, it could be a great band. There's a lot of frequencies there on phone. You can have, of course, obviously you want to avoid nets and ongoing QSOs. And I suggest that if somebody asks you to move, don't argue with them, just move. Now, if you've got the biggest signal on the band, you can argue with them, but I think all you're going to do is lose time if you stay there and try to fight it out. But I realize you've worked hard to get a frequency. You don't want to give it up to some newcomer. That newcomer will have claimed to have been there for all, and on the high band, sometimes it has because of the skip, but on the low bands, that's not likely. Now, if you don't get anything else out of this except this, and I think I've said it to this group before, you need to both run and search and pounce. There are many of you who, like several of us on here, would like to just run. And if you just run, you will never work anybody else who just runs. If you only search and pounce, you will never work any of the many other people who only search and pounce. So even if you don't have a commanding signal, but you've run, I mean, you've searched and pounced, and all the calls are sounding familiar, but there are other people in there calling. You can hear these people calling the other people that you're also calling. You try to find a semi-clear frequency and CQ for a while and get some of these people who are only searching and pouncing. And as I say, if you like to run, then every once in a while you got to stop and do some search and pounce, or you won't pick up all of your multipliers probably. And also, you will never work any of these other people. There'll be people who will just get on and operate for an hour or two. Particularly, some people like to be what they call fresh meat. Come in on late Sunday afternoon or Sunday night, and when everybody's already tired of working of hearing each other, having worked everybody else, and they can have a big time. But if you're CQing and they're CQing, then the two of you will never contact. So the takeaway I want, if you don't get anything else from it, is try, even if you've never run before, try to do a mixture of it so you will work almost everybody who's on the band.